You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
WSJ tears into Trump over obsession he can't quit despite major harm, based on an article by Thomas Kika. Tariffs, pain, and the conservative class discovering consequences. The story in one line. The Wall Street Journal editorial board, usually a safe harbor for conservative power, finally said the quiet part out loud. Trump's tariffs are politically unpopular, economically harmful, and being shoved through on flimsy pretexts just months before the midterms. Who actually holds power? This is not a story about confusion. It is a story about power being used as a tool of punishment and extraction. Trump holds the institutional leverage here. He can invoke trade law, slap tariffs on Canada and Brazil, and force the rest of the system to react after the damage is already done. The editorial board's complaint matters because it comes from inside the conservative elite apparatus, not from a democratic opposition. Rupert Murdoch's paper is not suddenly discovering principle. It is noticing that Trump's chaos is hitting business interests, consumer prices, and Republican electoral prospects at the same time. The pretext machine. The most revealing detail is not that Trump used tariffs. It is that he picked targets first and let the bureaucracy manufacture the justification afterward. Canada and Brazil were not chosen because of some neutral application of law. They were chosen because Trump had grievances, and the state was made to launder them into policy. That is the pattern. Section 301, Section 338, forced labor rhetoric, anti-Lula peak, the legal vocabulary changes, but the method does not. The administration names a target, then retrofits a rationale. That is not governance. It is state power used as personal vendetta with paperwork. Conservative complaint, not democratic rescue. The Journal frames this as a political mistake because it could cost Republicans in November. That is the limit of its concern. The paper is not condemning the abuse of power on democratic grounds. It is warning that Trump is damaging the coalition that protects conservative economic priorities. That distinction matters. When the right complains about authoritarian methods only after the methods threaten its margins, it is not a correction of course. It is a record of complicity with a delayed alarm bell. Democrats should not treat this as elite wisdom arriving on time. It is elite self-preservation arriving late. The real economic story. The board's economic argument is stronger than its politics. Tariffs raise costs, feed uncertainty, and still manage to hide behind the noise of the stock market and the AI boom. The article notes that tax provisions and tech investment have offset some of the damage. That is not vindication for tariffs. It is camouflage. The broader pattern is familiar. Trump inflicts measurable harm, then surrounding conditions absorb part of the shock, and his defenders use the remaining growth as proof that the harm never existed. That logic is dishonest. If policy needs unrelated booms to soften its damage, the policy is the problem. The system behind the spectacle. This episode shows how much of American political discourse is structured to misdirect responsibility away from the people with actual authority. Voters are told to focus on markets, personalities, or isolated bad decisions, while the real mechanism is plain. One man weaponizes federal power, conservative institutions rationalize it, and the public pays through higher prices and degraded governance. The larger lesson is not that Trump is unusually impulsive, though he is. It is that the conservative project has built a culture where power is acceptable so long as it serves the hierarchy. When it starts to damage their own donors, their own editorial boards, and their own electoral math, they call it an obsession. For everyone else, it is what authoritarian rule looks like when it shows up in the price of groceries. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Alternet for today's article. With the automated voice of Sam, thanks for listening.